August 24th, 1814. The capital of the United States of America, a city not even 25 years old, is in chaos. Its defenders have been routed, its government has fled, and as night falls, the world's greatest superpower, Great Britain, marches into its streets, not as diplomats, but as conquerors with torches. The Capitol building, home to the Senate, the House of Representatives, and the Library of Congress, is set ablaze. The president's mansion, the White House, is gutted by flames. For the first and only time in its history, Washington, D.C. is captured and burned by a foreign enemy. How did this happen? How did the fledgling American Republic suffer such a profound humiliation? This wasn't a random act of savagery, it was a calculated act of retaliation born from the fire and fury of the War of 1812. This is the story of the day America's capital burned. The War of 1812 was a bitter and brutal conflict. By 1814, it had been raging for 2 years. While the Americans had seen some stunning victories at sea, their campaigns on land, particularly their attempts to invade British Canada, had largely been disastrous. The event that sealed Washington's fate occurred more than a year earlier, in April 1813. American forces captured the capital of Upper Canada, the town of York, what we now know as Toronto. During the occupation, undisciplined American troops looted and burned the city, including its parliament buildings. For the British, this was an unforgivable insult. The burning of a civic symbol was a violation of the unwritten rules of warfare between civilized nations. When British command in North America was taken over by Vice Admiral Sir Alexander Cochrane, he was determined to make the Americans pay. He issued a proclamation. His forces were to destroy and lay waste such towns and districts upon the coast as you may find assailable. In August of 1814, Cochrane had his chance. Napoleon had been defeated in Europe, freeing up thousands of Britain's best troops. A force of 4,500 elite veterans under the command of Major General Robert Ross landed in Maryland. Their objective was not conquest, but punishment. After swatting aside a larger but pathetic American militia force at the Battle of Bladensburg, in what became known as the Bladensburg Races, the road to Washington was wide open. The American government had completely failed to defend its own capital. On the afternoon of August 24th, General Ross's army marched into a city gripped by fear and panic. Washington, D.C. was practically a ghost town. President James Madison, his cabinet, and the military command had fled into the Virginia countryside. Government clerks had hastily packed up crucial documents like the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution and smuggled them out of the city. Most of the civilian population had evacuated their homes and businesses behind. The British soldiers, exhausted and scorched from their long march under the hot August sun, were stunned by the lack of resistance. They had expected a fight at the city's edge. Instead, they walked into the heart of their enemy's government unopposed. General Ross established his headquarters and prepared to carry out Admiral Cochrane's orders for retribution. As the British approached, one of Washington's most famous residents was still at the president's mansion. First Lady Dolly Madison had been preparing a grand dinner for her husband and his military commanders, confident they would return victorious from Bladensburg. Instead, she received frantic messages urging her to flee immediately. But Dolly refused to leave until one precious item was saved. She insisted that the iconic full-length portrait of Washington Greenhouse be taken down and secured. It was a symbol of the nation itself, and she would not allow it to fall into British hands as a trophy. With the frame too difficult to unscrew from the wall, she ordered it to be broken and the canvas removed. She entrusted the painting to 2 New Yorkers, who spirited it away just as the British vanguard was entering the city. Dolly Madison's quick thinking and defiant act saved a national treasure and created one of the most enduring legends of American history. A few hours later, British soldiers entered the president's mansion. To their astonishment, they found the dinner table still set for 40 guests, with food and wine ready to be served. They feasted on the American president's abandoned meal, drinking toasts to their king before taking souvenirs and piling up the furniture to be burned. The first target was the Capitol. Ross's men broke into the building and were awed by its magnificence. But they had their orders. To ensure the fire would be as destructive as possible, they piled up furniture, doused it with rocket powder, and lit the bonfires. The flames quickly consumed the wooden interiors, destroying the House of Representatives, the Senate chamber, and the original Library of Congress, incinerating thousands of priceless volumes. An American physician who witnessed the event described the building a cruel, magnificent spectacle. Next was the president's mansion. Torches were thrown through the windows, and soon the home of the American head of state was a raging inferno. The Treasury building was also burned to prevent the Americans from financing their war effort. The fires were so bright that they could be seen from as far away as Baltimore. The message was clear. This was punishment. Yet not everything was destroyed. In a remarkable act of restraint, the British spared the Patent Office. Dr. William Thornton, the superintendent of patents, convinced the British that the models and inventions inside were the property of all humanity, not just America. He argued that to burn them would be a crime against the civilized world. The British agreed, and the building representing human knowledge and innovation was saved. Then, on the afternoon of August 25th, something extraordinary happened. The sky turned black, and a violent storm, possibly a hurricane or a tornado, descended upon the city. The winds were strong enough to lift cannons off the ground. The torrential rain doused many of the flames, saving what was left of the charred city. The storm did more damage to the British army than the American military had done. More British soldiers were killed by flying debris and collapsing buildings than had died in the battle. Shaken and believing they had made their point, General Ross ordered a retreat. Within 26 hours of arriving, the British were gone. They left behind a city in ruins and a nation in shock. The burning of Washington was a profound humiliation. In its wake, there was serious debate in Congress about abandoning the ruined city and moving the capital further inland to a less vulnerable location. But instead of breaking the American spirit, the act galvanized it. The destruction of the capital fueled a new wave of patriotism and a fierce determination to see the war through to the end. The call to abandon Washington was defeated. The decision was made not just to rebuild, but to rebuild stronger, on the same foundations. The president's mansion was reconstructed and painted a brilliant white to cover the smoke stains, cementing its name, the White House. The burning of Washington remains a defining moment in American history. A story of military disaster, political failure, and national disgrace. But it is also a story of survival, courage, and rebirth. It's the story of how a nation rising from the ashes of its own capital reaffirmed its identity and its resolve to endure. What do you think was the most significant part of this event? Dolly Madison's heroism, the storm that saved the city, or the decision to rebuild? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you for watching.